I am so excited to talk to you about Mount Rushmore because, listen, most people get to Mount Rushmore and they just look at the mountain, say, oh, that's great, and then leave. And there's so much more to do here and in this area that today I want to share with you 5 things that you definitely don't want to miss on your first visit to Mount Rushmore. My name is Ash. I'm a former park ranger and the founder of Dirt in My Shoes, and I just absolutely love South Dakota. I actually lived in South Dakota for a little while, and I feel like pretty much all that people know about South Dakota is that it has Mount Rushmore. So we are going to focus in on Mount Rushmore today and make sure that you know what you'll want to do while you're here so that you can have a full experience at this really cool national memorial. Before we jump into the things that you can't miss, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel because I have a lot more content coming for both Mount Rushmore, but also the national parks in the area, Badlands and Wind Cave. So stay tuned for that. A couple of things that you'll also want to note about Mount Rushmore is there is a parking fee required, and this is required for all vehicles. It doesn't matter if you have the annual National Parks Pass or if you have a senior pass or anything like that, you're still going to have to pay the parking fee. So I definitely want to mention that. It's like $10. It gets you into Mount Rushmore for an entire year. So I don't know how many times you want to go to Mount Rushmore, but that is an option. And I just want to make that known because a lot of people get really confused when they get to Mount Rushmore and they realize that their pass doesn't work. That's because your pass covers an entrance fee, and they don't charge an entrance fee at Mount Rushmore. They charge a parking fee. So it's different, and that's why you can't get out of paying that. So just be prepared for that. The other thing I want to mention is that Mount Rushmore is open year-round, so you can visit at any time. They do have specific hours that the memorial is open that you can get in there and park. You're not allowed to park in the parking structure overnight, and so you'll need to check those hours, make sure you know when the memorial is going to be open while you're there. If you're there during the summer, it's open like for most of the time, like from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., something like that. But if you are visiting in the off season or the winter, those hours are much shorter. So definitely check on that before you go. All right, let's jump into the things that you'll definitely want to see while you're here. And number 1 is the Avenue of Flags. The Avenue of Flags is your grand entrance to Mount Rushmore. So you'll enter the memorial and you'll walk through the walkway of flags. You have flags on both sides of you, and they are framing Mount Rushmore. So it's very epic. It feels really cool. They're usually playing some sort of Stars and Stripes music as you walk. And so it's just a really fun way to be introduced to Mount Rushmore. The Avenue of Flags has 56 flags. It has one for every state, and it has one for Washington, D.C., 3 for territories, and 2 for commonwealths. So that's why there's 56. As you walk along, you can see the names of the place that that flag is from, and so you can find your state flag, you can see other states' flags, and it's just a really fun walk towards Mount Rushmore. Looking at a map of Mount Rushmore, this isn't like an awesome map, but this is what they have. So this is what we're working with. But what you have Mount Rushmore up here. You can see it here in the rocks. And your parking structure is down here. And so you'll enter, you come in on that highway, you pay your fee, and then you park here, and then you walk towards the memorial. And so the Avenue of Flags is just right here. You'll pass some buildings, you'll get in here, like this is the gift shop, and this is the cafe. And then the Avenue of Flags is right through here, which then leads to this area, which has the most epic view of Mount Rushmore, the one that you see on all the pictures. Okay, so you've walked the Avenue of Flags, you've seen Mount Rushmore, and I am not lying when I say that that is what probably 80-85% of people who visit this place do before they leave. So if you've done that, you're in good company, but let's dig a little deeper because there are way more things that you can see here. And I just love this number 2 spot, which is the Sculptor Studio. Gutzon Borglum was the sculptor who planned out the entire thing of getting Mount Rushmore up on that mountain. And so he was the main character that really brought this sculpture to life. And in the Sculptor's Studio, you can go down. This is an actual studio that he used. It was built in 1939. And they have a model that is 1/12 the size of Mount Rushmore. And what I like about this model is you can look at it and you can see that it actually is quite different from the Mount Rushmore that made it up onto the rocks. And so you can see the full vision of what Gutzon Borglum wanted to initially do versus what actually happened up on the mountain. My other favorite thing about the Sculptor's Studio is that this has one of my favorite ranger programs at Mount Rushmore. It's a really short program in like 15 minutes, but they talk about how Mount Rushmore was actually sculpted. The tools that they used, the methods that they used, what they had to do, like the crazy feats that they had to go to get Mount Rushmore sculpted into the mountain. So looking at the map of Mount Rushmore again, here is that Grand View Terrace where we get that really nice view at the end of Avenue of Flags. And the Sculptor's Studio is down here. And so there is a little path that you can take from the terrace that takes you down to another view of Mount Rushmore and then down to the Sculptor's Studio. This route does have some stairs. It's not flat. You're going down the hill, so just keep that in mind. If you need to get here and you have a disability or a handicap placard, there is a road here that you can drive if you have a disability placard. And so you can talk to a ranger at the visitor center here to get the okay to drive down here if you'd really like to see the Sculptor's Studio. But for everybody else, you'll need to walk. You need to take this path down to get here. You'll also notice this connects to the Presidential Trail, which we will talk about, but that is another way that you can get to the Sculptor's Studio as well. The third thing you absolutely don't want to miss on your first visit to Mount Rushmore is the Presidential Trail, which I just mentioned. But this trail is the one that will take you as close to Mount Rushmore as you can get. It takes you to the base of the mountain. As you're hiking this trail, you're basically like looking up those presidents' noses. So you are really close to the mountain. And this is just a really fun way to get a different vantage point of Mount Rushmore. The Presidential Trail is only a 0.6-mile loop. However, it does have a lot of stairs. So what I like to do is I like to hike it clockwise. That keeps the stairs towards the end of the trail and going down instead of up. And I prefer to go downstairs instead of upstairs. It's just easier for me. So, but that's what I like to do. But the first part of the Presidential Trail is pretty flat. And so if you just want to start it and hike for a minute along this trail, maybe get a little bit closer to the mountain, then you can turn around and go back the same way you came if you don't want to hike all of those 400 stairs that are on this trail. The other cool thing about the Presidential Trail is they have plaques along the way that talk about each of the presidents, why they were chosen for the mountain, their contributions, things like that. And so you do learn more as you're hiking along this trail and getting closer to Mount Rushmore. So here on the map, the Presidential Trail starts from below the Grand View Terrace. So how this works is the Grand View Terrace is just the overlook that you get to at the end of the Avenue of Flags. But then from there, you can go down some stairs or an elevator, and the visitor center is right underneath. And so you can't really see it very good on this map, but when you go down the stairs from the Grand View Terrace, then you're at the visitor center underneath, and then that leads to the amphitheater, which we'll talk about here in a minute. So to hike the Presidential Trail, you'll go down those stairs and you'll catch the trail down by the visitor center and you take it out here. And this stretch of the trail has really cool views of Mount Rushmore. I love walking along this. The views are just really nice. And then you'll loop around and you'll come over here. And that's where you'll just get some really great views of the faces up close. And then most of the stairs start over here and go this direction. So you can see they're marked in this map, stairs, 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 as you're getting over to the Sculptor's Studio. So if you want to do the whole 0.6-mile loop, I would do it this direction, go down the stairs, hit the Sculptor's Studio at the end, and then come back up to the terrace. But again, if you just want to do a portion of it, you can walk along here, you can walk along here, And then you can just turn and go back the way you came. I can honestly say that the fourth thing that you definitely don't want to miss on your trip to Mount Rushmore is the only thing that my young son ever remembered from our trips to Mount Rushmore when he was like age 3, age 4. And that is TJ's vanilla ice cream. So it's called TJ's vanilla ice cream because it's named after Thomas Jefferson, who is on Mount Rushmore and who also reportedly brought the first ice cream recipe to the United States from France. So he actually has a written ice cream recipe that is known as the first one. And so they actually take that recipe and a local company makes Thomas Jefferson's vanilla ice cream recipe and then sells it here at Mount Rushmore. It's pretty expensive. I think last time we were there, it was like $8 for a scoop. So somewhere around there. It's not cheap, but it is one of those things. Like I said, my kids remember that. That's like their favorite part of Mount Rushmore. The vanilla ice cream is really good. And it is connected to Thomas Jefferson, who is up on Mount Rushmore. So looking at the map, as you come into Mount Rushmore and you're walking down here, this first building that you'll see on your right as you're walking towards Mount Rushmore is the cafe, and that's where you'll find the ice cream. And number 5, my personal favorite thing to do at Mount Rushmore, and something that I go back over and over and over again to experience, is the evening lighting ceremony. Now, I'm a former park ranger and I have been to a lot of ranger programs. I've even led my own. And so it's a lot to say that I'm pretty sure that the evening lighting ceremony at Mount Rushmore is my favorite ranger program that I've ever been to. It's really patriotic and it makes me feel just so excited to be at Mount Rushmore. It's just one of those experiences that I love to have when I'm here. So this evening lighting ceremony happens after sunset, and they have specific times at the visitor center. But basically, at a certain time of night, they will light up Mount Rushmore. They have these big, massive floodlights that shine directly on the mountain, and you get to be there for the time that they light it. And so they do a short program. They have a movie that you watch, and you can sing along to songs and stuff like that. And then they'll light up the memorial. But my favorite part is actually after they light up the memorial, they actually invite veterans and active duty military down to the stage to be celebrated for their service. And so it's just really touching. It's really cool. There's a lot of patriotism. A lot of people are just like really happy to say thank you to these troops. And it's a really neat thing to do at Mount Rushmore. So I love the evening lighting ceremony. I never miss it. If you see me at Mount Rushmore, you will definitely see me at the evening lighting ceremony. The evening lighting ceremony is held at the amphitheater, which is just below the Grand View Terrace. So again, you'll walk down here and then there's stairs or elevators down the side that will take you down a level. And then there's just this huge amphitheater that overlooks Mount Rushmore. So it's very picturesque, very beautiful, but a really cool experience to have here. Okay, one more bonus stop that I just think highlights Mount Rushmore in a really cool way, and that is the Iron Mountain Road, which you will catch from Custer State Park, which is nearby, but not part of Mount Rushmore National Memorial. So what this is, first of all, Custer State Park is worth a video all on its own. It's amazing. There's so much to do here. I'm not going to go into detail in this video, but what you'll do is you'll go into Custer State Park and then you can take the Iron Mountain Road, and I would drive this road from south to north. So you'll drive it from in Custer State Park up towards Mount Rushmore. And the Iron Mountain Road is a really crazy road. It was actually built in a way that would force you to drive slowly through the Black Hills. There's so many curves, there's tunnels, stuff like that, but it just makes you drive really slow. And as you're approaching Mount Rushmore, as you drive this road, you'll go through a few tunnels that perfectly frame Mount Rushmore. It's so cool. And so this is my favorite way to approach Mount Rushmore, is along the Iron Mountain Road, and so that I can see those tunnels and get excited about what I'm about to see at Mount Rushmore. So here we have a map of Custer State Park, and this is kind of the main road that goes through the middle of it. But what you'll do is you'll catch this road here. This is the Iron Mountain Road, and it just, like you can see, it winds through here. There's a little loop-de-loop and another little loop-de-loop. But as you get up here to these tunnels, these are the ones that frame Mount Rushmore, which is the whole memorial is right here. So it's just, again, a really cool way to see it. I'm on a mission to make sure that you are not one of those people that just shows up to Mount Rushmore, snaps a picture, and then leaves. And so I hope that this video has helped you see that there are other things that you can do, really cool things to greatly appreciate Mount Rushmore and your experience while you're there. So I hope you have a fantastic time in South Dakota, and please subscribe to my channel to get more information about Mount Rushmore, Wind Cave, Badlands, Custer State Park, everything that you'll need in that area.